Right then, dressed in navy blue, the Indian team were all at sea in the first ODI versus Australia. What that has done is that India now find themselves in a must-win situation ahead of the second ODI in the three-match series. But remember, the game is going to be played in Sydney, the very same venue where Australia notched up a mammoth 374, and then India fell short by 66 runs. I am Nikhil Naz. You're watching ESPN Cricket for Match Day. Joining me, Tom Moody and Gautam Gambhir. Good morning, gentlemen. I'll get the ball rolling with you, Gautam. What would the Indian team be telling themselves this morning? You know, it's a fresh start. Everything that could go wrong went wrong in the first ODI. The two big guns didn't fire, Virat Kohli, Jasprit Bumrah. From here on, they can only better their performance, wouldn't you say?
Again, it was the first game after a very long time. They've played a lot of T20 cricket, but they haven't played a lot of one-day cricket. So obviously you can be rusty, and plus the concentration levels won't be the same, because obviously it's a 4-hour game, and as compared to the T20 cricket, they won't be panicking at the moment. But yes, the series is online, but again the problems are still the same. The sixth bowling option, and again they're bowling first, so let's see how they go with the bowling, because they need to struck early. If they don't struck early, then there are problems again.
All right. Just to remind you that Australia have won the toss and they've decided to bat first. We'll get you the playing 11s shortly. But before that, Tom, just the opening comments from you. I don't know if you're a believer in stats or not, but what we've seen with these two teams in the last three bilateral series, the team that wins the first ODI goes on to lose this series. What that does tell you is, though, that these two teams are very competitive when it comes to, limited over format.
Oh, there's no doubt about that. They're both, pretty evenly matched. They're both very, very good sides. Along with England, I think the three best sides in this format of the game. Clearly the Australians have the advantage, getting one up in a three-match series. It's always hard to come back knowing that you've got to win two in a row. I think if it was a 5-match series, winning the first one, I don't think you'd have the same statistics. So Australia definitely have the advantage, having, one win in the bag with only 2 games left.
Right. Toss has been won by Australia, as I mentioned a short while ago. Gautam, now that wouldn't do too much to the Indian team's confidence. I'm just looking at stats once again. The last 6 odd ODIs played at SCG, team batting first goes on to win.
I'm not a big believer in stats, to be honest. I think, really, you can't control the toss. You can't control what is not in your hand. Again, they need to do whatever they're doing first really well, because they didn't do it well last time around, but they still managed to get 300 plus. So if they can restrict Australia to a total around 300, 320, they would definitely back themselves to chase it. But it still looked a very good wicket in the second innings as well. Ball was coming really nicely onto the bat. People could play the shots on the rise, on the up as well. So there wasn't any difference from the first inning to the second inning. So I don't think it's going to make a huge difference.
Interesting, Tom. Gautam talks about not too much of a difference between the two innings, at least what we saw in the first ODI. Just reading the match report here, it's a used pitch. Do you think now with that heat around, the pitch might just get a bit more tired when you're batting second?
Look, I think it'll be pretty much the same throughout the game. I think one thing to take into consideration, in Sydney today, it's 40 degrees. So the team fielding first, which is India, are really going to feel the pinch in the heat out there in 50 overs, which may have an effect with regards to their ability to bat and bat deep and effectively. So Australia have got the advantage of the toss there because of the overhead conditions, the heat, where I agree with Gotham. I think that the pitch itself should be able to withstand 100 overs and be pretty consistent throughout.
Let's take a look at the playing 11s now. We'll start with India. No changes there for the Indian team. They've gone in with the same playing 11 that we saw in the first ODI. One was expecting maybe some changes to the bowling lineup. They clearly haven't done that. Gautam, in a way, you'd say just one loss, and you really wouldn't want to see a team make too many changes. Just tells you then they're lacking in confidence if you were to do that.
See, again, what are the options? See, you can actually bring in Kuldeep Yadav for someone like Yuzvendra Chahal, but one game is not enough to judge anyone. He's done reasonably well for India for a very long time, and it was not only Yuzvendra Chahal. Jasprit Bumrah went for runs, Navdeep Saini went for runs. So obviously one game is not enough, and obviously that's a good thing that what Virat Kohli has done. He's given people another go and see where they stand, because if you're playing one-day cricket after a very long time, obviously it can be difficult after T20 cricket. So let's see how they go. But then again, from the batting point of view, all those guys select themselves because they've done reasonably well in the past. So I don't think so it was any point of making any changes, to be honest.
The only one change, Tom, that India could have looked at, I'm just going to talk about Saini, not because of the number of runs that he went for, as Gautam mentions that, Bumrah didn't have a great day either. Just at his fitness level, we know that there was a press release before the match started, the first ODI, that he had back spasms. I was just looking at his pace. He started off in the mid 140s to begin with, but post the third, fourth over, dropped into the 130s. Do you think fitness could have been an issue? And if they had to make a change, India, maybe this probably was that area they could have looked at?
Yeah, look, I'm sure they would have monitored him very carefully before that first one day, and they wouldn't have played him if there was any doubt whatsoever with his fitness, because he's such an important member of the team going through not only these 50-over matches, but right through to the Test series. So he's clearly 100% fit. Otherwise, they wouldn't have taken that risk. I'm pleased from an onlooker's point of view that India haven't changed their lineup, because I just think you need to try to create that sense of confidence in the playing group that they're trusting their players, they're trusting their instinct on their best 11 and backing them to get back into this contest.
Let's take a look at the Australian team now. One change there, and that was an expected change because we saw Marcus Stoinis leave the field in the last ODI. He has a side strain, as we've just learnt. So you've got Moses Henriques coming in and filling that spot that Marcus Stoinis left behind. Tom, coming to you, I know you were a big, you thought that a spinner should have come in probably in this game, but they've clearly gone with an experience, and it's a like-for-like sort of a replacement for Australia. Medium pace all-rounder coming in?
Yeah, look, I personally would have gone with the spin option of Ashton Agar, particularly given it is a used surface. So, they played the first ODI on it. I think Australia don't need the bolstering up of their batting order. I think their batting is strong. Ashton Agar could have come in at number 7 with Carey number 6. I think that is ample strength, particularly when you've got the likes of Cummins and also Stark down the order as well. And I think it just gives the Australians a really good option having that left-arm spinner. The Indian batting lineup, doesn't have a lot of left-handers in it, so there's a lot of good matchups for the left-arm spinner against the right-hand batsman. Look, it's not to be. They've gone with Moses Henriques, the most experienced, I suppose, of their options. Cameron Green, there's been a lot of talk about him as a potential replacement. So I'm a little bit surprised, to be honest with you, that they've gone with Moses Henriques purely on the basis that he's more of a pure batsman that may offer an over or two. His bowling over the last couple of years has really dropped away, where he hasn't really featured a lot. Whether he's been bowling for New South Wales or he's been bowling for the Sydney Sixers in the Big Bash, you don't see Moses Henriques occupy the crease with ball in hand that often. So they've selected him, I think, purely more from a batting perspective than his all-round capabilities. Look, they have plenty of options, and that's the luxury of this Australian squad when it comes to those all-rounders, because there's others. There's Sean Abbott's another one they could have considered if they want more of a bowling all-rounder. And I suppose it's one of the luxuries Australia have that the Indian team don't have and are really crying out for at the moment.
Okay, interesting. You talk about Moses Henriques' bowling. We were just taking a look at his ODI stats: 11 games, 7 wickets. So it just reinforces what Tom Moody was just saying a short while ago. But Tom, I'm just going to come back to you on that spinning all-rounder that Australia could have gone with. The same question was asked of Aaron Finch at the toss, and he said, "Hey, we've got Glenn Maxwell." Do you have the same sort of optimism looking at Glenn Maxwell, the spinner, as much as Captain Aaron Finch has?
Yeah, look, Maxwell's a handy spinner. I wouldn't bank on 10 overs from Glenn Maxwell, but he's a great all-round package. We all know that his main suit is his batting. His bowling is a bonus, and you can possibly get 5 overs from him. On a good day, you might get 10, and he's one of the best fielders in the world. So he's a great all-round package. The reason I like the option of the left-arm spinner is that Ashton Agar, you can look at him to bowl 10 overs. He's a specialist spinner that is quite a fluent batsman down the order. Aaron Finch might say that he's already got Maxwell as a spinner, but Ashton Agar is spinning the opposite way. He's a left-arm spinner spinning away from the right-hand batsman. So I would imagine most of the Indian batsmen, particularly the right-handers, would welcome the spinner spinning into the bat, and feel confident they can, knock Maxwell around quite comfortably.
Just taking it forward from there, Gautam, to you, as Tom mentions, one, that you get a left arm spinner, so that's an added dimension that you get. The other thing is, I know you don't select a team looking at the toss, but now that Australia are going to be bowling second, we saw how the spinners were really effective bowling second here. So in hindsight, Finchie might be thinking probably spinning all rounder could have been a better option.
100%. I have to go with Tom, no doubt about it, because they've got enough batting, and plus, more importantly, they've got guys who are in form now. They've got Steve Smith, who's got 100. They've got David Warner, who's got a half century. Aaron Finch has got 100. Glenn Maxwell has got runs. So there was no point actually probably having Moises Hendricks, because they've got enough batting. Plus, if you get Ashton Agar batting at number 7, he's good enough. He's a good enough bat to be batting at number 7, and then Pat Cummins can chip in with the bat, Mitchell Starc, and plus you'll get another spinner. If Zampa was so successful, they can actually bowl in tandem, and then against the right-handers, and he can give you those 10 overs as well, which takes a lot of pressure off someone like Glenn Maxwell. So I would have definitely gone with Ashton Agar 100%, because it just gives you another attacking option plus the wicket-taking option as well.
Gautam, the options apart, I'm just going to go back to the guy that they'll be missing. That's Marcus Stoinis. You mentioned at the end of that first ODI that how crucial his overs are, and we've seen him, really strike the ball very well with the bat too. So that's going to be a big loss to start with for Australia.
Yes, 100%, because now it puts a lot of pressure on all the three seamers. I don't know how good would Moises Hendricks be. As Tom has just mentioned, he hasn't bowled enough in the past. Yes, Stoinis was bowling in the IPL, so he was carrying some form into the one-day series. But then if someone has a bad day, like how Mitchell Starc started last time around, there's got to be a lot of pressure on the three seamers, plus on Moises Hendricks as well, because I don't see Glenn Maxwell bowling those 10 overs against people like Hardik Pandya and the Virat Kohlis, because they would definitely cherish him. So the reason is, now let's see how Moises Hendricks goes with the bat, and more importantly with the ball.
Okay, now that India would be bowling, let's talk about Jasprit Bumrah. Tom, I know he didn't have a great day in that first ODI, but if you were to take a reference point, could IPL be a great reference point? We saw him play that first game for Mumbai Indians. Wasn't great, a bit rusty, but from there on had a fantastic IPL. Could he replicate something on the similar lines in the ODI series too, you reckon?
Yeah, look, the bottom line, Nicola, is class is permanent, form is temporary, and that's a great example with Jasprit Bumrah. We all know that he's world class. Whatever format he plays, he is right up there amongst the very best in the world. I wouldn't be concerning myself one little bit around the fact that he has one bad day on a very good batting surface. Jasprit Bumrah, as long as he's fit and healthy, I would back him every single day of the week. So you can guarantee he'll come back out in this game, and if it's not this game, the very next one, and just show, all his fans and the rest of the cricketing world how good he is. He's a class act, and I don't think there's any concern whatsoever.
The other thing that India really need to do, and Gautam, I'm going to be stating the obvious, that is to get the Australian openers out quickly. They didn't manage to do that in the first ODI, and then we saw how they went on and piled up those 374 runs. Just looking at how you manage those fast bowlers, one thing that you noticed in that first ODI, you had someone like a Mohammad Shami, didn't have a great start, went for a few in that third over, and after that you have him out and you replace him. Would you like the skipper to persist with those fast bowlers? Sometimes 3 or 4 overs later you come into your own. We saw that with Hazelwood when he was bowling for Australia. Didn't have a great start, but then the skipper persisted with him and then eventually went and got you those wickets.
See, it depends. If you see, they've got Pat Cummins as the backup for Josh Hazelwood and Mitchell Starc, but now you've got Navdeep Saini, who doesn't have that much of experience, so it's difficult for Virat Kohli to actually take that call, whether he's got to bowl Mohammad Shami with 6 overs up front, or he's going to have someone like Navdeep Saini bowling with a semi-new ball and then have Mohammad Shami in the middle and then in the end as well. So it's difficult. You can't compare both the sides, yes, but it's very important for Jasprit Bumrah and Mohammad Shami to strike early. And the Australian openers would be knowing that, because they are the two key bowlers. If they don't strike early, they've got Navdeep Saini, who's inexperienced. They've got Yuzvendra Chahal, who didn't have the best of the days in the previous game, and then Ravindra Jadeja. So if they manage to attack 2 of their bowlers, India's got nowhere to go. So, and that is how the opposition thinks about the playing 11 of the other side as well. When you've got only 5 bowlers, you only need to look to target 2 of them, and then you're putting all the rest under pressure as well. But on the other side, Australia always had the luxury to go back to Marcus Stoinis, Glenn Maxwell. They can chip in, or probably if they can take a wicket as a fifth or a sixth bowler. It'll be always a luxury, but India doesn't have that. So I know Australia will look to target that kind of a thing. Whether they might look to attack someone like Yuzvendra Chahal and Navdeep Saini and put pressure on the rest of the three bowlers. Let's see how it goes. But then Navdeep Saini, Mohammad Shami, and Jasprit Bumrah needs to strike early. If they don't strike early, probably we'll be looking at another huge total in this game as well.
Since you talk about the sixth bowler, that just leads me perfectly into the next question I was going to ask. Gautam, I'm coming back to you. We heard from Virat Kohli at the end of that first ODI. He said, listen, we don't have a sixth bowling option, so let's not talk about that. We'll have to get the part-timers to bowl. But I'm just looking at the Indian batting card. Do you see any part-timers there? I don't know whether, Mayank bowls or Shreyas Iyer bowls or even a Virat Kohli comes into bowl. Would they inspire confidence in you, that batting order on those part-timers?
No, it doesn't. And see, if you just have to make someone bowl, you can make anyone bowl. That's not the question. And probably that wasn't the best answer either, that we don't have it. Probably you should have a squad where you have someone in it. As simple as it gets. You're taking a very big squad. Yes, I can understand probably they're not of the same quality. But then you have such a big squad in Australia. Probably you could have someone in the squad and see how it goes as well. Okay, imagine if India don't win the game today, they could have actually given someone like Washington Sundar or someone like Shivam Dube or XYZ, whoever was there in the squad, to just play the next game and see how they go into the one-day format. But if you don't have anyone in Australia, probably that's a selection error as well. I know unless and until you don't judge someone, you will never be able to find that how good he is at international level. You can keep talking about it. But now if you've got no one, probably even in this next game, you will go with 5 bowlers, which is going to be, again, a big problem for someone like Virat Kohli. So when you take a bigger squad, you have to have options. And unfortunately, India hasn't taken those options to Australia, and which might come back to hurt them big time.
Tom, just taking that forward, sometimes we involve ourselves too much with the, touring party and who's been selected, who's been left out. But probably the problem lies when the team was selected, as Gautam mentions. I know that there aren't too many, bowling all-rounders here in India at the moment. Unlike Australia, they had, 4 to 5 options now waiting to fill in that spot that Stoinis left. But despite that, you would have a couple of them that you could have selected. Shivam Dube is someone that Gautam Gambhir mentions. I don't know what the status with Vijay Shankar is, but this is something that the selectors could have looked at while selecting the team. You've got 3-odd batsmen waiting in the wings, but you really don't need a batsman. All you need is an all-rounder.
Yeah, look, the issue that India faces is a very difficult one. And the only player that can be left out of the side to play a Washington Sundar or a Vijay Shankar or whoever it might be that you have at your disposal as that sort of batting all rounder is at the expense of Suresh Iyer, who recently got in the last ODI series against New Zealand, he got 100. So what you're doing there is you're throwing your balance of your side out on the basis of filling a short-term problem. I would be encouraging and promoting the fact that let's forget about the short-term problem. We know that at the moment we've only got 5 specialist bowlers. Let's pick the very best 5 that we've got and back them to do the job. We know it's not ideal, but the long-term vision for this side is that Hardik Pandya is going to be fit to bowl. He's clearly good enough to play as a batsman in the top 6, as he showed in that first game. Let's accept that he's still going through that recovery process, and whether that takes weeks or months, let's accept that when he does come good, that is our solution to this problem. And in the meantime, I wouldn't be chopping and changing the batting order and at the expense of the likes of Suresh Iyer, who needs the valuable exposure and deserves the opportunity given his recent performances for India in ODI cricket.
See, just want to add, Nikhil, one thing. Yeah, Tom is spot on, but I was just mentioning that, okay, if it's a dead rubber, for example, I hope India wins the game today, and we want to have an exciting series going forward in the third game as well, where it's a decider. But if it doesn't happen, if it's a dead rubber in the next game, do you still have the luxury of trying your 6th bowler or someone who's been sitting on the bench? You don't. So that is why I was mentioning you can have someone in the squad. It's not important to play him all the games, but at least you can look at the balance of the side as well. Probably if, for example, Mayank doesn't do well, probably Virat Kohli can open in the next game and have Shreyas Iyer batting at number 3, and then KL Rahul comes at number 4, Hardik Pandya 5, and then you can have someone like Washington Sundar or Shivam Dube or anyone. I'm not saying put them in a game which is probably a must-win game, but you can actually try them in the game which is probably kind of a dead rubber as well. So from that point of view, I was talking about that you need to have some options going forward, because if even in the T20 series, if India goes with only 5 bowlers, it might just come back to hurt them big time again, because against a quality side like Australia and a strong batting lineup like Australia, it's very difficult for all the 5 bowlers. Imagine what Navdeep Saini or Yuzvendra Chahal would be going through. If they have another bad day, they know they have to bowl 10 overs. There is no one who can actually take the pressure off him, and it's a huge pressure on any bowler. Imagine as an opening batsman, if you don't score runs and you still have to face the same bowler and against the new ball, how much pressure an opening batsman is under. So it's exactly the same situation for people like Navdeep Saini and Yuzvendra Chahal, because they've got no one to help them out, help them with their overs. And that's the reason why I was talking about probably you could have someone in the squad.
Well, talking about options, Gautam, you're talking about Washington Sundar. He's not even part of that ODI squad. Yes, he's there in that limited over format, but that just tells you where the problem really lies. Probably by the time you were selecting his squad is something that you could have looked at. But just Gautam, going on to that part-time option while you were playing, and even while Tom was playing, there was the Steve Waugh and the Mark Waugh, and even what Bevan could bowl. And while you were playing, you had the Sehwag, Sachin could bowl, Saurav Ganguly would bowl. Why do you reckon that part-timer has gone away? Is it primarily because of one reason that's often talked about, that you don't have these batsmen bowling in the nets, because now you've got that side armour being used for net practices?
No, that's not true, Nikhil. That's not true, Nikhil. The rules have changed. With 5 fielders inside the ring, with 2 new balls, it's very difficult for a part-timer to actually chip in with 4 or 5 overs, unless and until it's a new batter and you can chip in with 1 or 2 overs. But earlier, if you see, there were only 5 fielders inside the ring, plus the old ball, which would grip, which would turn a little bit. But now if you see, the finger spinners have gone out of the game. How many finger spinners are there? Probably if you see, Ravindra Jadeja is one, Ashton Agar is one, but no one plays the finger spinners anymore. And plus you're talking about part-timers who are always under pressure with 5 fielders inside and a semi-new ball. This will go out of the game. This has already gone out of the game. So it's difficult for a part-timer, unless and until we change the rules and go back to what was in 2011 or when Tom was playing. There was 5 fielders allowed outside the circle. Now there are only 4 fielders allowed outside the circle with the old ball as well, because a part-timer would definitely, if he's a spinner, he would need an old ball which is little softer, and it doesn't hurt him that badly when the batter is set.
Tom?
And the other point to add to that is the game has evolved enormously over the last 10 or so years, which has been courtesy of T20 cricket. T20 cricket has given the batsman, the confidence and the skills to be able to really take down anything that comes their way that's average, and that is someone that's having an off day, a specialist bowler that's having an off day, or a part-time bowler. So therefore, you don't see the part-time bowlers survive as they used to survive, on the basis of the field, which Gotham was talking about, but also on the basis of how the game has evolved over recent years.
All right, we'll leave it at that. Tom Moody, Gautam Gambhir, thanks so much for joining us. Now, Aaron Finch and David Warner are out to take strike. We'll see you at the mid-innings. You're watching ESPN Cricket for Match Day.